All right, and we are live. Welcome back to another episode here on the Esports Economics Podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Clark, and I'm super excited to be interviewing Allie Rooney here today. Allie, what's going on?
Hi, how's it going? Good.
Good.
We were just talking about the weather. It's beautiful here in Minnesota. It's a nice, balmy 23 degrees and sunny. So
there you go. Yeah, that sounds to anyone who's not from Minnesota, really anywhere in the Midwest, that sounds like insanely cold. But given the time of the year, that actually does sound nice.
Yeah, it's I'll take it. I'll take it versus negative degrees. So, but yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you stopping by. And just as we're getting into it, just give the audience an idea of who you are, what you do, and how you got into marketing and esports.
Yeah, so I'm Allie Rooney. I'm the digital marketing manager for Version1 and Minnesota ROKKR, the Call of Duty team. Version1, we have a professional Rocket League team, as well as our newly announced Valorant squad, which I'm so excited about. I love Valorant. But yeah, I've been with Version1 and ROKKR since November of 2019. So not too long. And honestly, I think I was like the 6th employee for Minnesota ROKKR. I think there was a couple of us that started the same day. So it's like 6, 7, 8. So I always like to, say like I was one of the founding members of Minnesota ROKKR, which is pretty cool to say. But I feel like my story or like my story of getting into esports is a lot different than maybe other people that you've had on your podcast. Because I am not a gamer. Like, I guess I would say I'm a gamer now. But I definitely, when I started this job, I would not call myself a gamer. And I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first questions that I got asked in my interview was like, do you play video games? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, but let me explain to you like why I still, would be an asset and a value to your company. So I stumbled upon this job actually when I was doing some job hunting on Indeed. I think it's the job site. And the job description was like super generic because they hadn't even announced like the Call of Duty team yet. They were just, looking to build up their team before announcing it. And I saw, a digital marketing manager position. The owners of the Minnesota Vikings, the Wilfs, are looking to start an esports organization and they need a digital marketing manager. It was like, that was pretty much it. And then like maybe like a small job description of what a digital marketing manager is. And I was like, that would be really cool to work for the owners of the Minnesota Vikings. And that I was living in Eagan, Minnesota at the time, which is where the job was going to be. It was going to be like a 10-minute commute from where I was living. I was like, sold. And then on top of that, I always, just from being aware of, marketing and just business in general, I knew that like the esports industry was huge and was continuing to grow and it was going to be a huge opportunity. If I could get a job in that industry, just knowing, how fast it was growing. So that's pretty much the extent of what I knew about esports, was that like, it was a growing industry. There's a ton of jobs opening in esports and, I love marketing and I was like, perfect, let's give it a shot. But yeah, and then, the rest is history. I got the job and I absolutely love it. I think my favorite thing about esports is the community factor and how like it's so big, but yet feels so small. Like, it was crazy. My fun little story I like to tell is Minnesota ROKKR launched the launch weekend event for the first Call of Duty League. The first big event was held in Minneapolis and Minnesota ROKKR was the hosting. And so that was like my first project, like on the job was like, hey, launch weekend event, we're planning it. I'm like, sweet, we have like 3 months. But it was just so cool to be a part of that event. It was amazing. And 2, like to see some of these, people that were like fans who were coming to the event and like they were able to see like their favorite professional Call of Duty player for maybe like in person for the first time or wherever it may be. But I had no idea who these professional COD players were. I was just like,
Yeah.
they're just like kids. I don't know. Like, and they were, everyone was like so nice. Like all the professional Call of Duty players that I was meeting, they were so nice and so normal. And one of my coworkers was a huge Scump fan. And I think just me like being naive to esports and whatever, I didn't even know who Scump was at that time because I was still kind of learning. And I think I ran into Scump like in the armory at like one of the top, like the blocked floors. And I was like, hey dude, like, I hope you're liking the event. And we were just like casually talking and he was super nice.
That's crazy.
And then I went back to like the staff room and my coworker was like, you were just talking to Scump. I was like, who? So I was like, love that. Like, I don't know. It was just my introduction to esports was so fast and that like I had so much to learn at that time. But I always love telling that story because I feel like a lot of people would like kill to meet Scump. And I just like casually met him and just had like a random conversation, not even knowing like how big of a deal he was. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story too, because I mean, to be honest, I'm probably closer to like your end of the spectrum than I am to like the person that's been in esports for like a decade now and it's been like grinding since the beginning. And it's good to hear those sort of stories of how you can enter in from the outside and still do really well and do really good work as long as you're looking to like just to do good work, like you'll be good. So I think there's this kind of misconception among a lot of people that you have to be like one of the OGs in esports to be able to make it now. And I think it's important for a lot of people in the audience to hear that. So I appreciate you sharing that story. As you were getting into it though, did you experience any sort of like second guessing as you're starting to learn all this stuff? Because there is so much to learn. I mean, I know from firsthand experience, I got into watching the COD League in the past probably 2 years. And when I first started watching, I was completely lost. I didn't know what was going on. I knew Optic and FaZe just from hearing it around every once in a while. But other than that, I was like kind of clueless. So did you experience that at all as you were first getting into the space?
Oh yeah, there was definitely that learning curve. But I think, well, a couple of things helped. One, we have Ashley Midnight Glassell as our director of content who came from Optic. And like I worked with her every single day. And she's one of the nicest people on the planet. So like if I had a question on anything, she was there to like be our like resource into the esports world, into the content world. So a lot of times when I was like building my strategies on things, even like me and Annie, our VP of content and creative, you know, we would bounce ideas off of Ashley just to get a temporary check from her on, hey, is this like what the community would like, or all that kind of stuff. So that was helpful too. I mean, my other coworkers were like super knowledgeable about Call of Duty and esports. So I had them as a resource. And I think what helped is one, I was like really excited to learn and was willing to learn and put in the extra time to educate myself, whether it was watching YouTube videos. So like all the content you're creating, for example, like I would be watching content like this to like learn, following the right people on social media who are like leaders in the industry to learn from them as well. So I think there's a lot of resources out there for people who are maybe just learning about esports or have never gotten into esports. I think that's the wonderful thing about the internet these days is that like there's so much you can do. Just a quick Google search can get you to so many different articles and video content that can help you educate yourself. And then 3, I think, would just like, I downloaded the game and I played the game and I was horrible at it, but I like, that was a really quick way for me to learn. And that's what I continue to do with any game that like any team or game that we get into. Like I never played Rocket League. We got a Rocket League team. Quick. I downloaded it and I started playing with it. And then even like Valorant, luckily I did play a little bit of Valorant before we got our Valorant team. So I was a little ahead of the game there, but I think people who are looking to learn more about esports, it's just to dive into the games that are becoming esports to learn. So, but yeah, I think you made a really great point about like, I always hit home if people DM me or ask me like, how did you get your job or whatever? I think it's always, especially if you're coming right out of college and don't have any necessarily direct experience with esports. I think it's about like showing your skills and experience in ways that can also bring value to an esports organization. You don't have to be an expert at esports to be hired. I'm a perfect example of that. What I was able to bring to the table was my marketing experience, my communication experience, and all of that. So I think that should, like you said, it should never demotivate people from applying for jobs in esports even if they've never, had an esports job before. So.
Awesome. Now, what do you do currently in your role on a day-to-day basis? What does that look like?
Yeah. So as the digital marketing manager, I currently lead our paid marketing. So all of our paid social ads and any other paid advertising. I also lead our email program and our website, as well as our like data and analytics. So 4 different things there. But then of course in esports, you never just wear one hat. You also wear 4 different hats. So on top of, being a digital marketing manager, I've helped with our virtual watch parties. I think you maybe have talked about this on your podcast before, but at Minnesota ROKKR, before the pandemic hit, we were having in-person watch parties where we would invite fans to come watch our team play via live stream. If they were like playing in an away game in Atlanta, we would watch the stream all together at a bar. It was super fun. But when the pandemic hit, we had to kind of pivot and figure out how do we engage with fans and keep our fans engaged with us. So we decided to shift to an online watch party via our Discord. So I've been kind of leading the charge of our watch parties ever since then, from in-person to virtual, and kind of just being the project manager there. And then recently, we've each for the Minnesota ROKKR for Call of Duty League, this year the teams have been able to be in charge of their own merchandise and their merchandise, sales and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So excitingly, I've taken the lead on e-com. So now I'm the new, I've been helping with our e-com strategy and kind of like our go-to-market plan for our merchandise this year. So that's super exciting, super fun. I love merchandise and all that. So yeah, a lot of things.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. And it sounds like, each of those things could be their own role in and of themselves. That's super impressive that you're balancing all that and doing really well in all of those. One thing that you mentioned that's interesting is email. And that's not something you hear talked about a lot in esports, in the esports Twitter sphere of marketing. It's oftentimes not the most exciting thing in the world, but from like my knowledge of marketing, it's super important. So can you speak a little bit on the importance of it, why you guys even put focus into having an email list and email marketing?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in email. The most important reason being we own that data. Once people sign up for our emails and are in our database, we own that database versus on other social media platforms. If Facebook was to go away, like we wouldn't have those Facebook followers anymore. We wouldn't have that data anymore. So we really, at least I take, a lot of priority in building our CRM database. So that's one of the main reasons, why I like running emails, because that's a huge, valuable piece to have as part of your business. And we've seen a lot of success from it as well. We have a way above an average industry, like click-through rates and open rates on our emails, because people, have specifically raised their hand to sign up for something. So the expectation is that, if people are raising their hand to receive certain pieces of information, then there's going to be, you would expect higher open and higher click-through rates. But it's just another channel for us to keep in contact with our fans and making sure that they're getting the information where they want to get it. So do they want to get information on social media? Great. We have that available to them. Some people prefer email. We also, I think other leagues have an SMS program, a text message program, but I haven't seen it be heavily promoted. But for ROKKR and Version1, we also have an SMS program. So we send out text messages reminding fans of when a match is going to start, or if there's been a huge giveaway dropped and we want to make sure that they're entering. We just use that as another tool and another channel to keep in contact with our fans.
If you're able to speak on this at all, what type of stuff are you guys sending like via email? Like what type of content are you guys including in that?
Yeah. So we first started out pretty simple with just like tune-in emails. So we would send in like almost like a notification that like ROKKR's match is about to start. Make sure you tune into YouTube to watch. Or if we were having like a tournament or a special event that ROKKR was hosting, we would remind, subscribers that we have an event starting and for them to tune in. Now we're really diversifying our strategy a little bit more as our team grows and we have more bandwidth to spend on email. But this year we started sending out a monthly newsletter, which I'm super excited about, especially now that, as an organization, we're growing and we have multiple teams and we want to make sure that fans know what our schedule is that week or what other fun things that we're doing. As well as I think it's important from like more like the business angle too, and like brand and partnerships. It's good to, have a piece of content that maybe people who maybe just aren't fans of our team, but maybe people who want to like be in the know about esports. Our newsletter will include, like esports news and like some of the top topics of that week that somebody, would want to know if they're trying to, get into esports. So lots of fun topics in our newsletter, merchandise stuff as well. If we drop, limited edition collection or something like that, our email subscribers are going to be one of the first people to know. So I think it's having that variety. But I think what's key with email and specifically SMS marketing is making sure that like there's an like special value there that they can't get on social, because we're going to post everything on social. But what are some like special things that we can save just for our subscribers, right? Because they've indicated that they're like our super fans and that they're super interested in our content. So sometimes, our email subscribers might get the first look at our merchandise before social media does, which then also incentivizes people to subscribe, because if they're going to get the first, chance at grabbing a piece of our merch before everyone else does, they're going to want to sign up.
That makes sense. Now, in terms of email versus SMS, how does that compare and contrast in terms of like the type of content you guys are sending out? Obviously, you can't send out a full email and SMS, but in terms of like the general types of content y'all are sending out, and also just in terms of the numbers, like I would imagine there might be some differences in terms of open rate or click-through rate to if you're sending a link via SMS or via an email. What does that look like?
Yeah. On SMS, when it comes to like metrics, we have like an insanely high open rate, which makes sense, right? Because, and that's why I like SMS. And that's actually my background. My first job out of college was with a mobile marketing company where we worked with Fortune 500 companies sending out their text messages for them, for their programs. So when I came to ROKKR, I was like, can we do SMS, please? And we ended up doing SMS for our launch weekend event, which kicked it off and was super successful. But as far as like differences, like email, we tend to do maybe have a little bit more like copy, longer form content, where SMS is a little bit more short and sweet. We want to make sure that like the messages that we're sending via SMS are super relevant, and maybe even like time sensitive, because they're getting a notification on their phone. Most likely they're going to open it right then and there. If you're like me, I hate having notifications on my apps on my phone. So I'm going to open it up right away. It's, you want the copy to be super grabby and attention grabbing and have like the link or whatever action you want them to take right then and there. But yeah, we see a pretty much close to 100% open rate because it's text messages and people, are going to open up the text message. It's click-through rate that you have to like, that's where you have to adjust your strategy and learn what type of copy and messages are actually getting people to click.
Are there any general tips you could give there? Obviously, you don't want to give away all your secrets what you guys are doing, but are there any general like copywriting tips or just formatting tips in terms of SMS or email too, that you have found to help with click-through rate, open rate, those sorts of metrics?
Yeah, I think I think keeping the message, I guess like the key call to action of the message as close to the beginning of the subject, especially on email.
Okay. Yeah.
Making sure that the call to action or whatever is going to grab someone's attention is, at the front of the sentence as possible. Because especially on mobile, things get truncated and you can't see the rest of the message. We played around with like emojis. We played around with like, getting our brand voice in there a little bit. Like with version 1, our brand voice is a little bit more on the goofy side. So we like to make some puns or I don't know, just be a little bit more goofy in the subject line so that people are like laughing and want to check it out. Same with text message, copy gets truncated. So you want to make sure that I'm not a professional copywriter by any means, but some of the tips and tricks that I've, collected along the way, also for social like social post copywriting, is always starting with an action word. And then again, making sure that that main message is in the forefront, because if a message gets truncated when it's posted or when it shows up as a push notification on your phone, that message can't be seen. So you want to make sure that that's at the forefront.
Got you. Awesome. I think that's a good overview of email, of SMS. Again, I think it's important to talk about because it's not the flashiest thing in the world, especially in esports, when you have all these content series and memes and drama, as we've seen on the timeline today in Call of Duty. We can talk about that in a few minutes here. But email and text, like, they're foundational things when it comes to business. And at the end of the day, esports organizations are a business that need to be profitable. So I'm really glad we're able to touch on that. Now, in terms of paid social advertising, like on Instagram, Facebook, what's your guys' overall approach there, without giving away too many of the secrets?
Yeah, paid social is what I was hired to do at ROKKR. So I think it's not talked a lot about in esports, because I think there's so much focus on the organic social side of things, and specifically some esports teams don't even have like a Facebook or an Instagram. Like they're purely on Twitter, because the assumption is that all of esports fans are on Twitter. But we've seen, obviously we've seen higher percentages of our fan base on Twitter, but we still see our fan base on Facebook and Instagram as well. So when it comes to a paid strategy, especially being a smaller organization and a newer organization, one of the main goals with our paid strategy is to increase visibility. It's all about increasing our awareness to an audience greater than our current followers. The algorithm of all the different social platforms changes like every week. And it's
definitely,
and it's a clear indication. A lot of the algorithm changes are clearly indicating the platforms wanting their brands and users to use paid in order for their post to be seen, which makes sense. They have a business to run too. They want to make money. Advertising is going to make them money. So, while we don't necessarily use paid social ads, all the time, we definitely do use it, probably like more often than other esports organizations that I know of, based on I don't necessarily get tagged or targeted by a lot of ads from other esports organizations. So I think one, that's good for us because it keeps our costs low, because if no one else is targeting that audience with ads, then sweet, more for us. But yeah, we've seen huge success from our paid social campaigns as far as increasing awareness and visibility, as well as driving clicks to our content. We do tune-in ads, driving people to our broadcasts. So for example, Rocket League, we have the grid. which is like a weekly, bi-weekly tournament series that Psyonix does for Rocket League. And we own that broadcast on our Twitch channel. So one of our main goals is obviously to drive followers and to drive viewers to our broadcast. So we use paid social there, as well as for all of our co-streams, watch parties, large events. We'll put paid behind those initiatives as well. And then lastly, I think, which I do see from time to time, which is really funny, I see Scump's paid ads on Twitter from time to time.
Yeah.
And I love it. Whenever I see that, I'm like, this is so cool. Like, why don't other esports professionals who are trying to build their brand do this? Because especially on certain platforms where the cost is so low, they could really help like boost their like views and engagement on their posts if they were just to throw like $100 on one of their posts. So we at ROKKR and Version1, we also put money behind our organic posts, sometimes called boosting. So if we have, a top tier content, what we call an RN, such as like our Saga docuseries for Minnesota ROKKR, or we have a docuseries for Rocket League called Chasing, we'll put paid dollars behind that promotion to ensure that, one, all of our fans are seeing it on their timeline. Two, that our fans are seeing it multiple times on their timeline, not just once, not just the original organic post. They're seeing the organic post, and then maybe a couple hours later, they're seeing it again, or the next day they're seeing it again. It's that, reminder and increasing that frequency so that they actually do click and watch it. So yeah, I think overall it's been super successful for us as a strategy to kind of grow our presence in the esports industry. And we're going to continue to do it. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen those ads you're mentioning about a Scump, and I think Optic is really the only other org I've seen use ads in any capacity. Like, and I wouldn't even say they're ads; they're more the boosting posts, like you're mentioning. I'll see some of their clips from their videos boosted on Twitter. I think other than that, the only esports ad that I've seen, and it wasn't even really esports, it was more merch related, was from Team Liquid when they dropped the Naruto merch line. Yeah, I think it was just a retargeting ad because I went to their site to do some research for an article I wrote, and an hour later I got hit with their ad on IG. So I would assume it was a retargeting ad, but really that was the only. That and the Optic kind of boosted posts on Twitter are the only ads I've seen. I'm sure there are other orgs doing it, but
yeah, I think Cloud9 is another example. They also do, for their merchandise, they do retargeting ads, because when I was doing some research for our own merchandise like strategy, I was looking at other esports and what they're doing, and I landed on Cloud9's website, and I swear their ads followed me around for like over a week, which I was like geeking out over. I'm like, this is so cool. I can't wait to do this. So keep an eye out for retargeting ads from us.
Awesome. But, for anyone who might not know what a retargeting ad is, I know we kind of just like breezed over that because you and I both know what it is. But for anyone watching who might not be up to what that is, what is a retargeting ad and what role does it play in this entire picture? Yeah.
So how retargeting ads work, and everybody's been retargeted by an ad. Unless you're not on the internet, but you're listening, so you're on the internet. But basically what a retargeting ad is when a user lands on, let's say, for example, the Cloud9 merchandise website. Everybody has cookies on like associated with your ID, you have a unique ID associated with you. And when you land on a page, you're kind of placing your cookies there. And then what has to happen on the back end for a brand is they have to have tracking enabled on their website, or some sort of tracking enabled so that they know, user 123 has landed on this page. And let's say you can get super specific with your retargeting. One really great strategy is called cart abandonment. So if you've ever shopped on like a retail site and maybe you've dropped, a shirt in a cart and then not bought it and left the site, because of the tracking on the website, it indicates to the brand that, hey, this person put something in their cart, but they didn't buy it. So let's start retargeting them with ads on either social or like display ads, which is like can show up on, if you're on a news publication site or whatever, with ads saying like, hey, you left this in your cart. Do you want to go buy it? And I'm sure people have seen this where like you Google like backpacks and all of a sudden you're like, you see like backpack ads like all over your social feeds and stuff. And you're like, what the heck? How did they know I wanted this backpack? It's because of the tracking. But I always like to remind people, because I think the first reaction when it comes to retargeting ads is like, oh my gosh, that's creepy. Like it's like following me around. Like I don't want them to know that. I think what's good to remind consumers is that like, yes, there are times where like advertising fails. Like I think my biggest pet peeve is if I like buy a pair of shoes. I'm like, I like this pair of shoes. I bought it. I'm good. I got the shoes. But yet that brand still retargets me with the shoes that I've already bought, telling me to buy them. I'm like, I already bought them. That's when I think sometimes advertising fails, and that's where it gets annoying. Where brands succeed is when they have the systems and the process in place on the back end to remove you from the system once you've made a purchase, or there's ways that you can get smarter and more efficient with your advertising so that you're providing the most relevant experience for the consumer and the user. I think that's something that's super important when it comes to advertising, and specifically in esports too, because, I don't think esports fans are used to getting advertisements. So I'll see every once in a while, like somebody will comment on our ad and be like, why am I getting targeted with an ad? Or it's not necessarily why I'm getting targeted with the ad. The message is usually like, why is, I'm a fan of Call of Duty or ROKKR and they're sending me an ad. Like, this is interesting. Like, because I don't think a lot of esports organizations are doing ads. So when an esports fan sees it, they're like, what? This is interesting. But I think what I like giggle, because I'm like, clearly you're a ROKKR fan. Clearly you're an esports fan. So I'm doing my job. I'm targeting you with content that you are most likely interested in. That's when I know I'm doing my job right, is when I'm targeting people, targeting a super relevant audience. And that's what I always attempt to do. Our targeting is pretty narrow, and we try to keep it narrow for that reason. We don't want to be annoying. We don't want to be intrusive. We want to make sure that we're delivering advertising content that the end user would want to receive.
Got you. Yeah, I know you guys are going to talk about that on the Clubhouse panel coming up soon in about half an hour here. So I don't want to steal all their thunder, but in terms of esports fans wanting to be advertised to or not wanting to be advertised to, how do you kind of get around that hurdle in the case of those fans that just for whatever reason have a sour taste in their mouth when it comes to advertising? Like you see on Twitter, that meme that goes around like silence brand, like you have those types of people. Obviously you're always going to have those people, so you can't ever really eliminate it completely. But is there anything you guys do to kind of make the content just more appealing, even when it's paid versus organic, to someone who maybe isn't used to seeing that type of content served on the timeline?
Yeah, I think kind of answered it before, but what we keep our targeting pretty narrow and pretty focused. But in the cases where our targeting is a little bit more broad, we do definitely tailor our messaging and our content to that audience. For example, like if we're targeting just a more broader like esports audience, where esports is so general when you're targeting that in a platform. So we want to make sure that our messaging is super clear on like what it is we're talking about. And maybe we need to add some language that's even a little bit more like informational or like educational, so that when the user does get delivered their ad, they know exactly what it is. and then having a clear call to action as well. So is it like, hey, we want you to check out this specific video, and here's a preview of the video so that you know when you click on that link what you're going to. I think that's a strong strategy that we've implemented, especially for like if we're directing people to like a longer form content piece on YouTube, we'll always include like a shortened preview version as the ad content, so that users can get a little taste of what they'll be seeing once they click the link.
Got it.
But yeah, I think it's just a learning experience too, and like being smart about what you're putting paid dollars behind. And then just being aware of your target audience and like testing too. That's always like, I mean, I'm constantly testing. And if I target an audience and they are just not receptive to it, awesome. Good to know. Won't target you again.
Yeah.
We'll move on. We've done a lot of testing where like we try to target some audiences that have flopped, and that's okay. That's how you learn, and you learn from it and move on. So.
Yeah, it makes sense. Definitely from experience in my day job, we talk about advertising, trying to find that target audience, and it can be tough sometimes trying to dial it in. So definitely lots of testing occurs. So
yeah, and every platform is different too. Like Facebook and Instagram is different than Twitter, is different than LinkedIn, different than YouTube.
Are you guys running ads on LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, yep. We run ads on LinkedIn as well.
Like, does it differ between let's say an Instagram feed ad versus a LinkedIn ad? So how so?
Yeah, the algorithm is a mystery on LinkedIn. It's I cannot figure it out. It's a mystery. Yeah. So I think paid has actually been a huge win for us because it allows us to be super targeted with our messages so that our organic posts on LinkedIn don't get lost in the feed. Like when I jump on LinkedIn, sometimes I'll see like a Minnesota ROKKR post from like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, why am I seeing this at the top of my newsfeed? This was from 2 weeks ago. It's not even relevant anymore. So we use paid to make sure that if there's like a super relevant post that we want to make sure that our target audience is seen like that day or like those 3 days, next 3 days, we'll use paid for that purpose. And then additionally, again, just like growing visibility on LinkedIn is huge. I think LinkedIn is a very underused platform in esports. So we're taking full advantage of that. Like we want to be like known as one of the CDL organizations and esports organizations that like really utilizes LinkedIn to its fullest extent. And we have a lot of really cool ideas coming down the pipeline for LinkedIn, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, that's a way that we make sure that our messages are getting in front of the like brand side, the more like professional business side, especially when it comes to like sponsorships and partnerships. Like we want to make sure the decision makers who are working for those brands are seeing all the really cool stuff that we're doing. So we use LinkedIn for that purpose.
Awesome. Now, what role does paid advertising play in kind of bringing in that newer audience member that doesn't really know what esports is or kind of has a vague understanding of it? Are you guys going after that person right now, or because it's so early on, are you guys still kind of focusing on like the casual gaming fan who kind of already understands a little bit and trying to get them to be a ROKKR fan? What does that dynamic look like?
Yeah, we do run like some more like evergreen advertising with the specific goal in mind to grow awareness and like almost like education of like who we are, because and it's more of like a frequency play too. Like if they see like an ad that like has like a piece of video content that is like talking about like who we are, and then maybe a couple weeks later, they see another like ad from us that's like a content piece. And then they see another ad that's like an article that's talking about like how do you watch Valorant and how do you understand like competitive Valorant? We like kind of want to layer those pieces of content in front of people and to kind of grow that frequency so that they have that brand recognition. So if let's say they're just like a general esports fan, or even like, I mean, we're not targeting super broadly yet, but I'm almost thinking too, like if we're targeting a demographic that maybe doesn't like play esports, but maybe their kids play esports or play video games, and they see an ad and they're like, oh, that's like, my son like loves video games, and I didn't know Minnesota had a Call of Duty team. Like, I'm going to spread the word to my son and whatever. There's a ton of opportunities, I think, to do that. Yeah, we definitely have a strategy in mind when it comes to growing our fan base. But a lot of that is still pretty narrowly focused on like video game enthusiasts and like esports fans. It's kind of getting their attention. And then I think overall, like the esports industry is going to continue to grow, and more and more people are going to be aware of it. So the people that we're targeting that are esports fans might be like new esports fans. And so we want to make sure that we're getting our content in front of them. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, how do you go about, you had mentioned a few minutes ago, kind of looking into when you guys were dropping merch, looking into like what Cloud9 was doing and researching and whatnot. What does your process look like for researching and coming up with new ideas for your guys' content and strategy?
Oh, that's a good question. When it comes to merchandise, we're still fairly new in the merchandise game. So I think right now we're just trying to see like what are the best practices out there, and where have maybe other orgs seen success. And we've obviously have connections with other esports orgs that have been doing merch for a while, and have built great relationships with them. So we've all kind of shared like our best practices and learnings as well, which is awesome. But yeah, I think we're still new on the merchandise game, but I think one, we want to like, we have like, I mean, I may be biased, but we have some pretty good designers on our team. Dane, Raul, Tasha, everybody on our team is so awesome. And I think we're really trying to like create merchandise that, one, our fans love, and two, that is like super unique and super cool. Maybe things that fans or esports fans haven't seen before. So I'm really excited for this year. We have a lot of things cooking. So yeah, I think what we don't obviously want to copy what people are doing, but we definitely like to see, and we keep our eyes and ears peeled for what fans are liking, and try to make sure that we're keeping up.
How do you guys stay up to date with that, as far as like what fans enjoy, what sort of trends are happening? Is it more so just looking at data analytics, or is it more like social listening, kind of like paying attention to what's happening on social media, combination of both? What does that look like? Yeah,
we definitely look at data. Even like within the first month, we're looking at how our February sales performed and what products sold, what products didn't, and using that data to make our decisions moving forward. And then two, I think we're super close with our fans. We love our fans. So we're always listening to them. We're, taking feedback from them. So if any fans out there, if you're like dropping stuff on our Discord channel, like, hey, it'd be really cool if we had like X, Y, and Z, like, trust me, we're listening. We write that down because we want to make sure, obviously, that we're providing merchandise and apparel that our fans want, right? Like, it's like a duh moment. Like, why wouldn't a brand, if your fans are specifically asking for something, why wouldn't you provide that? So I think we have a pretty good track record of listening to our fans and what they ask for. So that's definitely another, obviously, a way where we kind of think of ideas of what we want to create. So.
Awesome. Now, kind of shifting gears a little bit, I do want to touch on the Version1 rebrand, kind of the process behind that, what went into that. So for anyone who might not know, just give us a quick rundown of what happened and what the rebrand means for you guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I love this. So for those that don't know, Version1 is actually the new name of our parent brand. We were originally Wise Ventures Esports, which was always going to be like a temporary name. I think Brett Diamond has said this multiple times before, but yeah, that was always going to be like a temporary name. But when we first started, we had to have like an LLC, and that was what we came up with at the time. Obviously we started with Minnesota ROKKR. We started things a little backwards than a lot of esports orgs do. Like we started with a franchise team that was like, had to have a specific location assigned to the team name. So we had Minnesota ROKKR. That's like what we started out with. And we really wanted to build Minnesota ROKKR's brand and awareness of that team. But in August of 2020, wow, that seems like forever ago. Okay. But August of 2020, we actually decided to go into Rocket League as our second team. And Rocket League is currently not franchised, meaning they don't have like a location-based team set up like the Call of Duty League does. And so we needed to create a name for our Rocket League team to use when they're entering these tournaments. And our Rocket League team couldn't be Minnesota ROKKR because Minnesota ROKKR had to stay as just our Call of Duty League team. Yeah. So our leadership team, our content team, we all brainstormed different names and we landed on Version1. Again, Version1 was like in our head was just supposed to be like this temporary name.
Oh, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. We were like this temporary name, like we thought of it pretty quickly. Dane whipped up this like sick logo. We're like, cool, let's do it. So Version1 was our Rocket League team name. And then I think it was like August, September time. We're like, okay, well, we should probably like start moving forward with the like rebrand of Wise Venture Esports. So let's, start this brainstorming and thinking of ideas. And our Rocket League team was, doing pretty well. Fans, our new Rocket League fans were like loving the name. And we're like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll just keep Version1.
Yeah.
Fans like it. I mean, even us internally, like we were really vibing with it. We liked like all the different funny things we could do, like version and then WON, like if our team won.
Oh, yeah.
We would say like #Version1. And like we liked how we could shorten it to V1. There was just so many things that we were like having fun with the name. And so there were some other names that were thrown into the hat, but eventually our leadership and ownership team were like, yeah, let's do it, Version1. So that's just then started like the craziest, probably 3 months of my life doing, we had Call of Duty off season and all the excitement around that. We had our Rocket League team. And then we decided, with our new parent brand, Rebrand, we wanted to launch a brand new website. So I kind of raised my hand and decided to be the project lead on our brand new website at version1.gg. Little plug there. But that was, a huge project that, I'm so happy I got that opportunity because I love our website. I think it's one of the best websites out there. But it was a lot of work and, a lot of long hours putting that together. And then flash forward to like mid-January, and we all get the email or Slack message, I forget, from Brett Diamond saying, hey guys, so good news, we're going into Valorant. Literally like 2 or 3 weeks before we were going to launch our rebrand. And, immediately we're all like, no, this is awesome because now we get to launch our brand alongside of our really exciting new Valorant team. And I think it ended up being just like a super successful announcement because it was just like jam-packed with like all this fun content, a new team. Like, I think we really did a good job of like making a splash in the esports industry, of just kind of like announcing like, hey, we have a Valorant team and this is our new brand Version1. So that was kind of a long story, but I always like, wanted to tell that because I think it just shows that there was a ton of work that went behind the scenes with that rebrand launch, but we're super excited. I love the name, and a little like history or like backstory around the name. which I think is really cool and like very inspirational, is that like when you think of version 1, like it's version 1 is always like the beginning of something, it's the
Yeah.
version 1 of anything. It's like just the beginning. And at version 1, we're continuing to like iterate and improve and, just make changes for improvement as an organization and grow. We push ourselves to create better content, better experiences for our fans. We're constantly growing. And I think that can be applied to like, that's really inspirational. And I think a lot of people can connect with that, like being an innovator and always improving and always, growing. And that kind of like goes hand in hand with our like hashtag that we use for our brand, which is hashtag never done, which I like because it rhymes. Version 1, never done.
So many things that I didn't even notice these, but this is like genius.
Yeah, right. But yeah, version 1, hashtag never done. I think like when I heard that for the first time, like I literally got goosebumps because I was like, that is it. Like,
yeah,
we're like, how, like, just like, I just get like hyped up when like some of our players, like our Valorant players, have been using the hashtag a lot. Like after they get off like a really awesome win, they're like, we're never done. Like we're constantly moving forward. We're constantly growing. We're, we want to be the best out there. We're never done. Like we're never going to stop. So I think that a lot of people can relate to that hashtag and that like message, which just makes me love my job and this brand even more. So
yeah, it's always nice when it finally clicks after like brainstorming. I'm sure, like you said, there were other names that kind of got thrown in. Some maybe didn't feel right, or I was like, we could go with this one, but it doesn't feel like the right one. But when you kind of hear or see that right one and it clicks, it's definitely a lot of relief. So definitely understand that. And congrats on the rebrand. It looks great. And I'm not just saying that because you're on the podcast right now, but the website does look fantastic. And there are a lot of really cool features on it that I think might fly under the radar. One of which is like the stats after the CDL game that you guys kind of go and put those in. I know a lot of people in the Call of Duty scene have been like clamoring for the longest time. Like, we need stats. And we have some kind of third party organizations and like groups doing what they can to piece together stats, and I'm sure we'll see that grow. But I think it's really cool that, I don't know if you guys are the first CDL team to do this, but you guys are. So you guys are the first CDL team to actually put stats on your website after the game. What prompted you guys to kind of take that initiative and get that done?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you call that out because it's something that I think I'm really proud of us as a team for pushing for that for our website. Actually, Brett Diamond, our COO, was the one that like really pushed for it and I'm glad he did, because it just makes perfect sense. Like, we want to be the resource for our fans. Like, we want to have all the information that our fans would want. Because at the end of the day, like, we want to make our fans happy and provide them the information that they need. So that was, a huge drive for us. We kept on joking internally that like our goal is to be like the ESPN of esports. Like, we want to have like that level of detail and that level of data on our website for our fans. If a fan is stuck at work and they can't watch the stream live, well, at least they can have, pull up our website, and right at the top of the website is going to be a banner that shows like the map scores and like the current series score. Or they can even like check out the recap after and see like all the player stats. It's been really cool for me. I mean, I've been part of the crew that's been helping put the data on the website. And it's really cool to see like all the data and like see like, oh my gosh, accuracy did so well this map, because I'm like actually putting the stats in. So it's really, I mean, I've been using it as a resource. Our content team has been using it as a resource too, to create graphics and all that stuff too. So I'm really glad that you called that out, and hopefully our fans like it and use it. And so I'm super excited for that feature of our site.
Awesome. Another thing that just came to mind, I think it might be another first for you guys this season, was you guys were the first team this year to put out the actual media day assets for content creators to use and include in their graphics and videos and whatnot. So I think it's just another example, like you were talking about earlier, of like listening to what fans want. Because I think it was the CDL Intel account tweeted like, hey, CDL teams, when can we expect the media day stuff? Because we want to make graphics and put out content and do all that stuff they normally do. And you guys were the first ones to respond and actually get that done and execute on it. So I just want to give you guys props there. I think you guys probably are the best org in the league at actually like just listening to your fans and communicating directly. Like you have multiple individual staff members active on Twitter, communicating with people. Like you wanted to come on the podcast, Dylan being the first guest on the podcast, and I didn't even have the show, and it was just like random, and he agreed to come on. And it was great. Like little things like that go a long way. I think you guys are doing a really good job. And
Thank you.
There is my dog barking in the background. 1 second.
No worries. I'll add to that like I think why we have been so successful at that is because it's ingrained in our culture from like day one. Like, even when I first started, like with the launch weekend event, like we put that event on with the fans 100% in mind. And everything that we do, like I wish people could be flies on the wall in our meetings, because every event, every piece of content, like we're constantly bringing it back to the user experience, the fan experience, and making sure that it's the best user experience for them. And then, I think it's just, like I said, it's a part of our culture. Maybe it's like the Minnesota nice thing. I don't know, but we definitely are. I think we're like one of the most humble like organizations where like I don't think we have very big heads, and I hope it stays that way. I hope that's the like the vibe that we give off now and 10 years from now, that like we care about our fans and that like we want to build relationships with our fans, because at the end of the day, like it's a win-win situation, right? Like fans want to be heard, fans love to be interacted with, and then as an organization, we love to build relationships as well as we like to retain our fans. I think building relationships is a huge way to retain your fans. And like, if an organization seems too too intimidating or too well, even if I do message them, they're not going to respond. Well, then no one's going to actually, engage with your posts. So that's ingrained in our culture and our strategy, where like, we're responding to as many messages and DMs as we can. And I think our fans know that, and it's been awesome. And we've been able to make friends. I become friends with a lot of our fans, and I can't wait until the pandemic is over and I can meet, these people in person, and we can hang out at a LAN and a watch party and like put faces to names. Like, I'm so excited for that. So,
That's awesome. And you had mentioned staying humble, which I agree, I think is important. And as we've seen on the timeline today, it's been interesting.
It has been.
So we touched on it briefly before we went on air, but what's your guys' approach in like those types of situations where this Call of Duty Twitter is oftentimes a very volatile place, and oftentimes to the benefit of the scene, it's entertaining to some people and some people enjoy it. But what's your guys' approach when things like that happen? Like you saw 100 Thieves kind of lean in and actually drop their release date for their merch when that whole situation was happening. So we know the history with Hastro and hoodie orgs and whatnot. What's your guys' approach when stuff like that happens?
Yeah, like I said, we stay in the audience when it comes to those situations. We tend to not jump into the ring there, but as personally me, I'm still just in the audience, just watching it happen.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I didn't see that 100 Thieves did that. I mean,
they literally dropped they didn't drop the actual merch yet, but they announced like the actual date when it's going to launch.
Maybe to capitalize, on the visibility really that's happening.
I think that's what happened, because all that drama happened early in the morning, and then around noon they just dropped the link just nonchalantly, and I thought it was pretty funny. But
Yeah. Yep. But yeah,
those sort of situations have pros, but they can also have plenty of drawbacks. So I
for
applaud you
sure.
guys for taking that stance.
Yeah. Yep. We just stay in the audience on that one, but yeah, sure is
Awesome.
entertaining. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I know we're coming up on the hour here, and you got the clubhouse panel in a few minutes.
Yep.
So I want to respect your time. But one more question before we wrap up: do you drink coffee? And if so, how do you drink your coffee?
I do drink coffee. Starbucks.
There you go. What's in the cup?
I did a caramel macchiato today. I'm a caramel macchiato fan, but I do drink coffee. But I usually do like my Keurig coffee in the morning with a little bit of creamer, black coffee, a little bit of creamer. That's how I take it.
Awesome.
My fuel for the day.
Yeah, sounds right. But no, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. This was a super fun conversation. I know I learned a ton, and I hope we touched on some topics that I don't think are talked about enough in esports or as often in esports. So I'm really glad I was able to get you on the show, and I hope the audience enjoyed. But last thing before we end it off, where can everyone keep up with what you're doing personally, with what the ROKKR are doing, and Version1 as a whole?
Yeah. So personally for me, I am on all social medias, Allie_Rooney, on all the platforms there. I also am on Twitch. I stream very rarely, but and then as far as ROKKR and Version1, we just wrapped up our Valorant team didn't advance in the Valorant Challengers tournaments, unfortunately. But they'll be picking things back up in April-ish time. And then for Rocket League, we also just finished our majors. We made it to top 6, so super proud of them. Proud of our Rocket League team. But again, they also get a little bit of break, which is, I mean, hey, that's kind of nice for us. We get a little bit of a break. But Minnesota ROKKR with the Call of Duty League is still happening. We're actually starting our first run in the first majors of the Call of Duty League, which I'm super excited to see how that goes. But Minnesota ROKKR plays on Thursday night, either against Toronto Ultra or London Royal Ravens. So super excited for that matchup. And you can watch that on the Call of Duty League YouTube channel on Thursday.
Awesome. Well, Allie, thanks again for coming on the show. Really enjoyed it. And for everyone else who is watching all the way to the end, I appreciate you. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, all the good YouTube stuff that helps the algorithm. I'd really appreciate it. And if you are listening on audio platforms, we do record these live on the YouTube channel, which will be in the show notes below. And with that, I will see you guys in the next episode.